Togo, journalist sentenced to prison following government criticism. Latest incident amid worrying trend for press freedom in Togo. The International Press Institute, IP, condemned the sentencing last week of two critical journalists in Togo to 3 years in prison. IP calls for the sentence to be overturned and urges authorities in Togo to stop the legal harassment of journalists. On the 15th of March, 2023, a court in Lomé, the capital of Togo, sentenced two journalists, Ferdinand Ait and Isidore Kawonau, the director of publication and editor-in-chief, respectively, of the newspaper Alternative, to 3 years in prison, including a fine equivalent to about €4,700. The case dates back to November 2021 and relates to a program broadcast on YouTube called El Autojournal, where Ait, Kawonau, and a third journalist, Joel Iga, who died a few months later, on the 6th of March, 2022, spoke critically of two ministers in the administration of President Faure Gnassingbe's administration, including suggestions of possible corruption. The ministers then lodged complaints against the journalist for contempt of authority. Ait and Iga were arrested and detained on the 10th of December, 2021, and released on the 31st of December, 2021. The journalists were accused of contempt of authorities over a comment involving two ministers, namely, Kodzo Adebs in charge of the Trade Ministry and his colleague of Justice, Pius Agbatome. Both lodged complaints of defamation against the trio following the broadcasting of the program on YouTube. Unlike Ait and Iga, Isidore Kawonau was not detained but placed under judicial control and banned from travelling out of the country at the time the other two were in detention. While many thought the case might end there, after the journalists officially apologised for the inconvenience during another broadcasted program and also following the death of Iga, but after Ait and Kawonau discussed in the media the alleged mismanagement of COVID funds by the government, both received notice to attend a court hearing. The authorities' decision to revive the court case involving the two journalists was a signal that any criticism of the government's public management will not be tolerated. Despite Togo having decriminalised press libel, Ait and Kawonau were sentenced to 3 years in prison under the country's criminal code, as the press code does not recognise YouTube as a means of press communication. Both journalists had already gone into hiding and were sentenced in absentia. Togolese authorities issued an international arrest warrant against the duo. However, the legal counsel of the journalists, on the 20th of March, 2023, lodged an appeal against the court decision. The heavy sentence imposed not only sends a chilling message to other critical journalists, but it also undermines the press freedom situation in the country, which is seeing increasing levels of self-censorship. Recently, on the 1st of February, 2023, two newspapers were suspended from publication by the state media regulatory body, while on the 13th of February, 2023, Isidore Koller and Jerome Sossau, director of publication Journal Actu Express and Triangle des Enjeux, respectively, were summoned before a court over allegation of defamation complaint lodged against them by Baby Amarin. The sentencing of Ferdinand Ait and Isidore Kawonau for their criticism of the government and government ministers raises serious concerns about press freedom in Togo and the authorities' lack of tolerance for critical journalism. IP Deputy Director Scott Griffin: journalists should not be jailed for doing their constitutionally protected work of reporting or commenting on issues of public interest. We call on the courts to overturn this sentence and we urge authorities to strengthen the right of journalists to report without fear of arrest, legal prosecution, and imprisonment.